Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
It's always good to see you. I always love you guys' faces. Raise your hand if it's your first time here. Awesome. Thank you for coming out. Give them a round of applause. Perfect. So let me introduce myself and the organizers. I'm Tyler. I've got Billy, Nicole, Billy, Caitlin, John, Nicole, Kyle, and then I've got Courtney. There she is. I mixed up the names. I do that sometimes, so forgive me. We are your organizers, and the way this works is we have two presenters get up here for about 6 minutes apiece. They're going to tell you about their business. Then we're going to open it up to our expert panelists to ask them some questions, and then we're going to open it up to you guys to ask some questions, so make sure that you're thinking of some along the way. And now I'm going to have our expert panelists go ahead and introduce themselves. Mike is right next to you.
Hello.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Joseph Johnson. I'm an associate attorney at Seed Law. We're a boutique law firm that does business law. So we help out entrepreneurs and startups think about their legal concerns with business. And I specialize in intellectual property law.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Campbell. I'm the Director of Innovation Programs for Lean Lab Education. We just rebranded, so I had to think about that for a second. I've been supporting early stage entrepreneurs for a couple years now, and before that, I was in marketing for a nonprofit.
Thank you guys for being here. All right, so before we welcome our first presenter to the stage, could you please take out your phones? Everybody take out their smartphones. Come on, you too. Yeah. All right. Download the 1 Million Cups app if you don't have it. And if you do have it, go ahead and check in, and that way we can leave our presenters some feedback. And up first, please help me welcome to the stage Brad Hull with Wagon Bag. Give him a warm round of applause.
All right. Morning. Well, like you said, my name is Brad Hull, co-founder of Wagon Bag. Excited to be here. It's been a gold mine to get up here and present my story, our story, for a long time. So I appreciate you guys coming out here. Start with the video, kind of get you guys a little bit more understanding of what we got going on here. I'll dive into things here. Maybe not. Hopefully I got you going a little bit. So Wagon Bag is one of the craziest ideas I've ever had, and you know, Usually those are the best kind. The story of it is I was at a Royals tailgate, Kauffman Stadium, like a lot of us have probably been out to, having a few pops, and just kind of seeing a lot of people carrying heavy coolers, heavy grills, chairs, all their tailgating stuff, and just kind of lugging around and having a hard time with it, and seeing most people playing bags or cornhole, as most people call it. So, I was sitting there, just kind of sitting back in my chair, and I'm like, well, why can't we just combine the two? And that's where Wagon Bag was first started. So my brother, who's out of Austin, Texas, he's the first person I called. I don't have an engineering bone in my body, so I'm an ideas guy. So I called him, and he's like, God, that's a phenomenal idea. He's down in Austin, Texas, so he's, some of these tailgates, they're massive, so he's hauling the stuff from place to place, getting sweaty, getting, anxious. So he just got to work in his garage. So, and that was 4 years ago. So we haven't sold any yet. All our process has just been perfecting the design, getting manufacturing locked up, getting distribution locked in. So really, I've done a lot of just guerrilla marketing here in Kansas City, going to games, going to beer festivals, going to different events that, wherever people are outside, whether it be with their kids or, their buddies, drinking, not drinking, whatever the case, it's just perfect. So I'm going to show you real quick, just in case you didn't catch how it worked, just kind of show you how our patented design basically works. So we got this pin system here. You pull these pins out. You can hook on, like the Bluetooth speaker, hook on a bunch of accessories. We plan on coming out with more games, more accessories here down the road. You just pop these out. Lift this up. You got the boards here that sit right in the base of the wagon. They're reversible, interchangeable, so eventually we would like to get into sports licensing or doing custom stuff, laser engraving, vinyl wraps. There's a lot of different opportunities there. Just pop the board in. Just like that, you got cornhole. So, again, it's been a long process, but I mean, I can vouch for it myself, taking it to the lake, taking it camping, taking it on float trips, or we get a lot of people saying, their kids' sporting events or long tournaments are out at the ballpark for hours and hours. Like, how do we kill time, or what do we do, even if it's the parents, who might be tailgating before their games, whatever it is. We just get a lot of people talking about, have you thought of this? Have you, thought about taking it here, doing all these things? So, essentially, where we're at right now, we had a hell of a time finding a manufacturing because there's just so many pieces going on. But what we did when we first were building our initial prototype, we were buying the wheels and the undercarriage from a large wagon manufacturer who just sells the undercarriages solo. And what we did is, within the last year, we were kind of refining the materials, design. We ended up combining wood with metal just for, stability and strength. And, my brother built one off this undercarriage, sent it to our manufacturer, and they said, they're small time and weren't really sure of the idea, but they built this prototype, and it fits well within what they're already doing. They do a lot of garden carts, they do a lot of kids' wagons, so we've got it locked in. We're literally ready for production, distribution, and we've got Kickstarter just went live today, so it's been you know, the ups and downs, as many of you know, starting a business, it's every day you celebrate the highs, and you know, some days you're wondering if this is going to work or not, you know, but you know, we're all in. We hope you guys, you know, have a chance to just, you know, share it, get it out there. All of our, I can kind of walk through here on our story a little bit. If you go to Kickstarter, just type in our name, you can find kind of this whole story. But, you know, essentially just kind of talks about anywhere you can take it, kind of the features of the wagon, some different videos. Again, back to our story. Here's an image of, you know.
I'm going to jump in here real quick.
Yeah,
Forgive
go
me,
ahead.
Brad. Let's dig into all of that. First, let's say thank you for an awesome presentation.
Thank you.
And we will turn it over to the expert panel for our first round of questions.
Did I do it right? There we go. So I'm a mother of 3, actually, and that's code for I have a lot of SHIT that I carry around a lot. And we're particularly in wagon stage right now. I have 2 girls that'll be 3 next week. I'm a little concerned about the size, but what I want to talk about specifically right now is the business. I didn't hear a lot about the numbers and the go-to-market strategy. What will you do when you raise with your Kickstarter campaign?
Yeah, so the plan is basically just fulfilling orders, just start production, manufacturing. So our goal is 10 grand. Basically, is going to cover the first 50 units or so. You know, anything on top of that is just going straight to manufacturing units, and then obviously marketing, so we can spread the word a little bit more. But you know, we've got several partnership opportunities currently that are kind of in the works, as far as working, talking with Anheuser-Busch, NASCAR. I mean, kind of the beauty of taking so long to get to this point is we've had time to reach out to everybody and their mother about, check this out, you know. So I think there's some partnership opportunities there that will help us get larger distribution. We want to just go straight to consumer through our website. Once the Kickstarter's done, go through Amazon, Etsy, just straight online. And then if something, you know, down the road, because I mean, you mentioned it, with the size of the wagon, we get a lot of pushback on that. The good thing is it does fit in any trunk of any car. So the wheels just screw off and you set it on. But we do plan on, you know, once we get rolling, possibly having a lighter version, plastic or something, you know, that's a lot more manageable and you know, easy to carry around, but also less expensive for, you know, someone in your case with kids, because this isn't meant for kids, you know. This is meant for loading your gear, basically. So
Right. So one thing I'm a little concerned about that I heard you say is that you're seeking out these big-time partnerships. I think it's a little early for that. I think you should tighten up your feedback loop a little bit and get a few of these out there on the road in customers' hands so you can mitigate your risk of having a giant partnership like that and making a big mistake that you won't be able to come back from.
Yeah,
because if you get your product in the hand of some of these individual consumers, you're going to get feedback from them and be able to make changes. Mm-hmm. And that'll help build you up and get you ready for a partnership. You can't get a partnership with Anheuser-Busch, mess it up, and go back to them. Mm-hmm. You get one shot.
No, I agree.
So you need to learn as much as possible early and quickly and often.
Yeah.
So I think you just need to get out there and sell some of these before you're out there pushing sales.
Yeah, I mean, pushing sales is what we're going to be doing. But basically what they talked about is buying 5, buying 10, branding it, you know, the way that they want to. But no, it's good feedback. I appreciate it.
I was wondering, what are your costs to make the wagon, and also what are you planning on selling it for?
Well, I can't tell you what it costs, but I can tell you we're going to be, like, on our Kickstarter, we're at the early bird is $325, and everybody else who's after the first 100 is going to be at $350, and that includes the wagon, everything you see here, and it also includes this handy dandy ammo can that is kind of our take on basically carrying the bag. So we manufacture the camo bags, and we're going to be just sourcing the ammo cans. So that's, you kind of get the whole package for that price. And then eventually we want to have accessories, add-ons and stuff, other games, and so that way we can have more products coming out down the road.
And also, have you looked into or seen other competitors out there with similar products, like bags or something that also work with transporting the games and things like that, and how people are reacting to those?
No competition that I know of. The only competition is the collapsible foldable wagon or the radio flyers out there. But our target demographic is going after the guy or gal who doesn't want to carry a little cheap, kind of looking wagon. They want to be rolling up to their tailgate and be like, yeah, look at this, So we're going after that higher end right now, but like I said, eventually we'd like to go down the road of something a little bit lighter and less expensive. But like I said, there's really just, I think that's the beauty of it, and that's why we went so hard and heavy into it. Is there's nothing like this out there whatsoever. So.
And I heard you say your patented process. Have you actually filed or received any intellectual property protection?
Yeah, we're patent pending right now. So when we first started, the idea was to actually take the wagon and separate in two, so the wheels would be on each side. So that was kind of our first design. The cornhole would sit on top of it. So we've gone through a process of, changing and adding on and stuff like that. So, it's, just like any patent process, you hope it's gonna stick, but, our goal is just to get out there, like you said, as fast as we can, get a big chunk of the market, and if someone wants to try to rip us off, more power to you, So.
Alrighty, we're going to turn it over to you guys for questions. Please get those hands up, and we will start over here with a question on your right.
Hey, love the product. Question, since you just launched your Kickstarter, do you have a Kickstarter strategy at all, or?
Yeah, so we've talked with, 3 of our outlets that kind of have a pretty large following on social media and their website. One being Tailgating Challenge. They take a lot of, kind of similar ideas, tailgating products, promote them, do giveaways. We're doing a giveaway with them. They're going to be sharing our stuff today, hopefully. Trying to get into kind of the country demographic too. So Whiskey Riff, I don't know if you've seen some of their articles, blogs. And then Urban Leak. So they've talked, like the Cheddars of the world, Thrillist, the, Fatherlies, blowing them up. I got in touch with a few of them. So hopefully just trying to we've got another video that's a little bit more condensed and, more viral possibilities. So that's what we're doing there.
If you don't know the guys from Hex Cup, they're actually local, and they went.
Talk to them.
Okay, so I would definitely talk to them about how they did it and kind of work with them.
Yep, I appreciate it. Yeah, I talked to them probably last year. They gave me some good info, so appreciate it, man.
Question in the middle.
Sorry. Go ahead.
It's all right. Remind me one more time. I walked in the middle of the presentation.
Oh, Jesus. No, I'm just kidding.
What did you say?
Kidding.
No, what I didn't get it. What's his name?
Brad.
Brad. All right, Brad. I like your product and all. I think it's a good product, and it's definitely something I'm using. When I was younger, I rode a Ryder wagon, and those things are the most durable wagons. Those red wagons with the black handles. Mm-hmm. It's something I would do that. Why should I use your thing? Why should I use the wagon bag over the Ryder wagon when I know the Ryder wagon has a lot more competition, a lot more production than the wagon bag, which would cost me $350 versus the Ryder versus at $50 or something. Mm-hmm. Why should I spend more money there versus buying a Ryder?
Well, number one, you're supporting 2 brothers who've had a crazy idea and actually did something about it. And, you don't get cornhole with that. The beauty of it is because we get a lot of people that say, there's radio flyers in almost every garage or, backyard. The beauty of it is if you already have a wagon, you don't want to buy the whole set. The rail system in the cornhole fits perfectly inside a radio flyer. So if you don't have 350, eventually, we'll be able to come up with a way to, set that securely. But I mean, at this point, it's just if you're a radio flyer guy, have at it. We're going a completely, different direction. And I think it's just kind of the, I guess, cool factor. Me personally, I've got a 1.5-year-old daughter. Those are great if you're going around the block or something. But if I'm going camping or if I'm going on a fishing trip or a hunting trip, I think my buddies would probably laugh at me if I rolled up in a radio flyer. So, that's.
Question down front.
Hi, thank you for your presentation. How have you validated the idea that people will purchase this?
So again, just guerrilla marketing, taking it out to any possible event. I've lived here 7 years, and over the last 4 years, really taking it and just demonstrating it, letting people demo it, because that's our biggest thing is we want feedback on what people like about it, what people don't. I mean, we've heard it all. I mean, it's we know exactly what works and what doesn't. But a lot of time it's just asking, like, what would you pay for this? Because most people, one of their first reactions is, how much is it? Or and it's just trying to figure out, just get some feedback from them and notating it, and that's pretty much what we've done and got to this point based on all that information. So
now I come up with a lot of crazy stuff, and my friends are always encouraging me to go for that, but also they're not giving me money to do that. One way that you could definitely validate, and I don't know, do you already have a website?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right now it's just since we're trying to direct as much traffic as possible to the Kickstarter, it's just a one-page splash page, I guess, kind of where you can pre-order and it'll take you directly to the.
I would give a fake option for people to purchase this and see, are people actually going to put money here? What is too high? What is too low? And even though the product isn't ready, see if people are willing to put the money up.
Right.
For sure.
And I think that's what Kickstarter does too, is, it validates if people are going to buy it or not. I mean, if this falls flat, then, we know we need to do something else. But I think we've been kind of building up to this point just because it's such a great platform for publicity and press, and just gets it out there quickly. But I appreciate it.
In the middle, in the front.
You've mentioned your target market a couple of times, but what do you think is the profile of your most likely buyer? Is it young men, 20s and 30s with families?
That's a great question. I wish I had a specific answer for you, but we get all kinds. Like, I mean, you talk to the fraternity kid who, he goes tailgating, or frat wants to roll this around and, look cool in front of his friends, or you get the, 60-year-old grandma who loves, playing bags. But I think, probably, because men and women both love it. I mean, the issue is it is kind of awkward, kind of heavy. So that's usually what people's first response is if they're petite or, not wanting to haul something around like that. But, men, women, usually probably anywhere between the ages of 21 up to 55, really. And it's usually someone who just loves the outdoors, whether they have a family or not. We get a lot of single people too who are just, they go out to the lake every weekend. They're like, God, this would be perfect. So it's kind of all over the board, which is another benefit to it. So, thanks.
Question in the back.
Love the product. As soon as I saw it, I wanted one right away. So you've done a great job.
Thank you.
I'd love to buy one right now.
Go to Kickstarter.
$300 is a little expensive, though. I looked at some of your competition, and it was more, you can get a really nice wagon for about $100. What are some of the ways you can cut costs and maybe provide like a cheaper product? As I said, for about $200 or $150, I'd roll one of those right into my trunk right now. But $325, $350 is definitely out of my budget, which I think I'm probably like the guy who'd buy that first, I guess. And then also, have you considered any aluminum or making it lighter? I see a lot of wood on there. It looks pretty heavy. So, price, cost, cut, and
for sure. Another good question. So right now, our costs are based off these 50 units. So, if we sell several hundred, obviously our costs will go down significantly. We'd like to get it 250, would be ideal, but at this point we can't be taking a hit, So I think once we get volume going, I think we'll be able to like get that price down, because we have worked with any type of material, aluminum. We've done the whole thing metal. We've done the whole thing wood. Just kind of seeing what's going to work best and what's going to be lighter, functional. But the aluminum, it just seemed to be like too sharp. We did like diamond plated aluminum too, but so it's just sharp. We don't want some kid to stab themselves walking by it. So I think it's lighter than what it looks, which is a good thing. But hopefully once we get some more volume going, we'll be able to get that price down. And again, a year from now, 2 years from now, if we could come up with something, a plastic version, I think is probably the route that we're going to go. So that way we can get into retail or get into, big box stores, stuff like that.
I have a question in center.
Congratulations, great effort to this point.
Thank you.
You mentioned aligning with major brand Anheuser-Busch. What's your plan on retail, like getting into a Dick's Sporting Goods, Bass Pro, Rally House?
Yep, so those are some of the big ones that we would potentially, listen to as far as getting into retail. But again, it goes back to cost. I mean, if we can't get our price down, we're not going to have any chance unless they're selling it for, $500, $600. But Bass Pro, Dick's, Cabela's, all those would be perfect for this. But, I think what, you mentioned Anheuser-Busch, when their kind of idea was doing, a big display at some of these retail stores with all their other branded items and, doing a giveaway or something, go to the site, enter to win a chance to do a giveaway, stuff like that, just to kind of test it, I guess, and see if these retailers are going to sell them, and if they're going to, if we can find a way to have enough margin so everyone can eat. But we want to stay away from retail. I mean, for the most part right now, just so we, don't get in over our heads and do something we can't go back on. But that's kind of what they were talking about, is doing the whole displays and doing giveaways and stuff like that.
Question over on your left.
So my name's David. I think I'm the perfect target market for this. I've got a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old. We went to 4 different sporting events this weekend. I went to the Sporting KC game this weekend. What I would do is I would target people more like me, and not, to me this looks like a really cool high-end toy for somebody that's young and have, probably this guy's the perfect guy, I don't know, if I didn't have a kid. I also met my wife at a Royals game. But I would see, what I would do to improve it is take off the front wheels, because you don't need them to move it around too much. Put in maybe pegs instead there. I would make it more modular, so you could add on, maybe sell the original piece for $150, $200, but then you can add a cooler. You have water bottle holders. You have a place to put specific gear. Because as a parent going out to these games, it's about being organized as much as it is getting the gear out to the game.
Yep, exactly.
So I think it'd be more lighter weight, and then you have a chance to sell all these add-on things, and you could put tons of stuff on there that parents would just keep on buying after they bought the first product.
Yep, I appreciate it. That is our goal. I mean, we want to get the basic model out there so people can, take it out and market market for us. but then eventually adding, like you said, those different add-ons and organizational tools that we can fit in, and actually like a milk crate, even if you put a couple milk crates. I mean, the thing is you can customize this thing if you know what the heck you're doing. You know, you can add on a bunch of stuff yourself, but eventually we'd like to, you know, offer those on our website. So.
Thank you. Final question. What can we as a community do for you?
Just, you know, I think if anyone, you know, all these questions and advice are great because it's, you know, I don't have any experience running a business. It's, you know, me and my brother and nobody else. So, you know, we're trying to find as many outlets, as many networking opportunities just to, you know, pick people's brains, or if they've got a connection they think it might be a good, you know, outlet for us to get into, you know, and just go share our stuff, go on Kickstarter, you know, whether you want to pre-order one or not, or just share a project. I think that's the biggest compliment. So, you know, feel free to do that. And then these will be shipped. I mean, since we do have manufacturing in place, these will be shipping out fall time. The first 100 will go out in August, and then everyone else in September. So we've got like a lot of organizations that I've reached, like Boy Scouts, and you know, where there's tons of opportunity there where you can go buy 2 or you can go buy 5. But just, you know, if anyone's got any recommendations or contacts that they want to hook me up with, I'm all ears. So, but appreciate everyone for coming out, listening, and thanks for your feedback. Thank you.
Thank you. We've got a couple of announcements before Mug Club, and we'll give Brad a little time to go ahead and collect his things there. Adrian Haynes will give you an announcement.
Good morning, 1 Million Cubs. How's everybody doing? Good, that's the energy I like. If you're here this morning, you know that having a strong and well-connected network is an essential tool in growing your business. My name is Adrienne Haynes. I am the proud managing partner of Seed Law. Shout out to Joseph this morning. And the president of the Multicultural Business Coalition. So since 2015, every year, twice a year, we host the MBC Happy Hour, and our next one is on May 21st. So in about a week and a half, May 21st, from about 4 to 8, you can join us for the NBC Spring Social to meet some of Kansas City's best entrepreneurs and resource partners. We'd love to see you there.
Awesome. Thank you, Adrian. The next announcement is Stephanie Campbell from our expert panel.
I cannot get this thing to work. There we go. Hey, I'm Stephanie Campbell. I mentioned I was with Lean Lab Education. We have a couple exciting announcements. First, I'll tell you a little bit about who we are. So Lean Lab Education is kind of a local K-12 education think tank. We go out and we talk to the community members around the Kansas City metro area, parents, students, teachers, administrators, educators of all kinds, and ask them what are the most pressing problems in education today to them. Then we take that information and we use that to inform entrepreneurs we select from around the country to create innovative solutions for the problems being faced by those people we talk to. So we are announcing the culmination of our research at an event tomorrow night that everybody's welcome to come to. It's at El Torreon at 5:30. You can learn more about that at leanlabeducation.com. And also that fellowship I mentioned, that fellowship entrepreneurial training program, the application for that just launched. So if you know of anybody who's an innovator in the education space, send them our way, send them to our website. We want to hear from them, and we want to hear what they're working on so we can create equitable education outcomes for all kids. That's our dream. Thanks.
Thank you, Stephanie. Can we give them a hand? Thank you, thank you. Time for a Mug Club. How about that? If you've been to 1 Million Cups 10 times or more, please put your hand up. Okay, if you have not received a mug, leave your hand up. And John will pick
I
someone
think we
up.
found one.
There you go.
Please tell us your name and why you come to 1 Million Cubs.
My name is Corey Hunsucker, and I come for the marketing and networking abilities here at 1 Million Cubs.
Thank you. Glad you're here. Our next presenter for Nella Yoga is Chanel Peterson. Chanel.
Good morning. My name is Chanel Peterson Rafael, and I am the owner of Nella Yoga. I am originally from the U.S. Virgin Islands, and I've actually been continentally here for about 9 years. I started yoga over 13 years ago, and I remember my first experience with yoga. I was practicing in the living room with my father, and it was a P90X Beachbody workout. So if you know P90X and you know Beachbody, it's a 90-minute grueling yoga session. And I remember looking over at my father saying, I don't think my arms are long enough. And he's like, no, I'm pretty sure they are. And I did realize eventually that yes, they were long enough to get into this particular posture. I just hadn't had that body awareness just yet. When I moved to the continental US, I was actually recruited by a company to be a territory manager. I had worked with this particular company for 6 years. I started off in Florida, and then I was promoted to Houston, Texas, and later I became market manager here in Kansas City, Missouri. I worked in marketing, merchandising, pricing, and retail. Now, throughout this entire time, I was practicing yoga, and in reality, in about 2013, when things really changed for me, I had experienced a great loss in my life, and I remember sitting in a yoga class, and tears just poured out of my eyes. And I realized at that moment that healing had begun. And that time I also said that I wanted to be able to share this with others. And so I became certified to teach yoga. Now after moving here, I was still working in the corporate world, and I had recently had my twin girls, who are now 3 years old, and I couldn't see myself traveling anymore. And a couple of things I realized when I was visiting studios around Kansas City was that as a practitioner of 13 years, most other people can't really say that, especially in cities that haven't had yoga for as long as, let's say, California, New York. But yet, most of the classes were intermediate style classes. The other thing that I noticed was that I was what's commonly known as the only one. I believe Diane Bondi went public about this issue, this issue that's existent within the yoga industry. The only one in that I was the only person of color in every single yoga class I'd been to in the city. And on top of that, I was the only Black woman that was coming to yoga. And I know that, I realized later on that I wasn't the only one that noticed, because at my home yoga studio at the time, I got really excited one day when somebody else of color walked in, and before the class ended, or I should say before we left, the owner came up to me and personally introduced me to this other person. So that kind of told me that maybe she noticed as well. So here I am, and I've decided to leave the corporate world, and I want to open a yoga studio, being only in Kansas City for 7 months. And so we open on 21st and Grand. We shared a space with an artist, and it was a mere 300 square feet of a practice room. We could hold about 6 people, so it was a very intimate size. And yet, I was very driven by this need to provide yoga for all people, letting them know that they're welcome to come, no matter their abilities, their backgrounds, etc. Well, 6 months at this location, our building was sold. But of course, the funny part is I was actually at a class and I'm waiting for people to show up or, hopefully show up. And a guy walks in and he says, "What are you doing here?" And I'm like, "I'm teaching yoga. This is my studio." He says, "This building has been sold. No one should be here." And I was like, "Really?" Well, I was subleasing at the time. You can imagine 6 months in having to relocate. Now, I had learned a lot more about the city, the history, as well as the current state. And so I was a lot more intentional on my location. And I came upon a space at 55th and Troost, and the moment that I walked in, something told me, this is it. And everybody else told me, this is not it. Next door to me was a martial arts studio that was never really open. Across the street were a bunch of abandoned garages, and it was really a desolate place with the exception of 1 to 2 other businesses that had nothing to do with health, wellness, or yoga. But I listened to my intuition. I listened to that little voice saying, no, this is it. And I rented out this space. It really brought me to tears because after a month of being at 55th and Troost, I had more clients than I had had my entire 6 months at 21st and Grand. So we are now 2 years in at Troost, and we focus on teaching people that have never practiced yoga before, as well as those that are encouraged to come back to yoga. I think the greatest compliment I ever received from one of my students was from a woman in about her late 30s, maybe early 40s. And she was a white lady that lived about 20 to 30 minutes outside the city. She had a family with her wife at the time, and she said, "Do you know why I come here?" I was like, "No, I don't." And she said, "Because I feel that I don't have to wear yoga pants when I come. I feel that I can show up in anything, and I can practice, and I can breathe, and I can relax, and I can separate myself from all the stresses that are outside and find peace." Thank you.
All right, if our expert panelists want to ask their questions.
So you have your space, and I saw you also do events.
Yeah.
So for those, do you host them at the space, or do you go out to the other places that you're hosting for?
I do both. So we have many events at the studio, like we do yoga and wine tasting. We have kombucha classes where we teach people how to make kombucha, art and yoga, goddess yoga classes. And then in regards to the ones that we do outside the studio, they tend to be more outdoors. So we do at Luce Park or at the Nelson and other places where we simply host either donation classes to get people introduced in a more comfortable setting, and or we've also done like corporate events for businesses or conventions that come into the city, and they're looking for a way to provide an additional like source of wellness for their attendees.
And also I see the Yoga Live TV Live. Is that something you're hosting yourself, or are you going through another site or something for that?
So we actually utilize Zoom for our live conferencing. So we set up our phones, basically. It's very grassroots at the studio. And it's live streamed, so the teacher as well as the student can see each other, talk to each other at the same time as the class is happening. And so that way, it's very interactive versus most traditional online yoga classes. You don't have that accessibility to actually speak with the teacher, but you can get real live feedback during the class.
My last one is, are you doing all of the teaching yourself, or do you have other instructors with you?
I have 6 other teachers.
So this is always awkward, but will you be my friend? Because I also have 3-year-old twin girls, and we should hang out. And I love this. I'm also a beginner at yoga. I have been to a lot of pretentious studios where I felt out of place and couldn't stand on my head like the other women in their Lululemon. So I'd love to hang out. I stalked you a little bit last night. Wow, I'm creepy.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I saw you're doing some really cool work in the community with trauma. Can you speak to some of that?
Yes, so this will be our second year hosting trauma-informed yoga training. So Street Yoga is an internationally known program that they're established in London, they're established here in the US, and they travel teaching social workers, health workers, professionals that interact with people that have experienced trauma, how to incorporate little bits and pieces of yoga that's trauma sensitive.
So the research that I alluded to before you came up is alluding to, well, not alluding to, it's just fact. Our students are facing more trauma today than almost ever, and it's manifesting in the classroom in a very serious way. I think this is a vertical that you could really consider scaling. I think there's a huge opportunity for that and a great need for this work. That said, how are the revenues? You've got a couple different revenue streams. Can you speak to each one and how each one of those is performing for you?
So we are, as I mentioned, in our second year on Truce, but technically come July, this will be our third year, we have been able to increase about 200% since our first year. Now our third year, we're becoming a bit more stagnant, and so that's what we're working on, is increasing our exposure and education. And to your point, that's kind of how and why I began Nela Yoga TV Live. Nela Yoga TV Live just started in January. So we're getting the word out on an international scale as well as a national scale, because it can be something that anyone can tap into, as well as still having that live yoga experience. So that's partly where we're working on increasing our revenue there through the Nela Yoga TV Live.
Well, we'll open it up to the floor, but let's keep talking.
John and I are going to make the rounds, so if you have a question, raise your hand and we'll do our best to get to you.
You'll be our first.
Great presentation and way to discover about you. Can you tell us, are you working with the Truce Collective on 31st and Truce, and do you know about them?
I do know about Truce Collective. I am not working with them. I actually just came upon them, I'd say this year. Even though I'd heard about them in the past, I hadn't really known exactly what their mission was. But I recently had a conversation with one of my teachers about having more interaction with them. Yeah. Yes.
Can you speak a little bit to following your intuition? Because when you walk into your space, it is a very comforting, very easy place to feel at ease. And often when you start a business, you have your gut of like, this is what I want it to be, this is what I want to do. And then you tell people and they're like, no, that's a bad choice. Can you speak a little bit to how you use your intuition to make your business decisions in an industry that's very much about feelings?
I think that's one of those things where each individual person will have had their life experiences that shows them, can I trust the voice inside of me, or can I not trust that voice inside of me? And we've all learned in many ways like mistakes from that, but then lost opportunity. And I feel that when I had originally opened up on 21st and Grand, I didn't have that feeling. I was just going with, okay, it's kind of the crossroads, kind of downtown, kind of Crown Center. This should be good because, you know, we've got all these people that have money and they're going to want to come and et cetera, et cetera. But I will say that when I walked into 55th and Truce, it was the complete opposite in that it wasn't as obvious, but yet I knew based on that initial inkling that I'd had previously that something wasn't right, that when it felt right, that I should just go with it. And so I did.
We have a question in the back.
Hi, nice job on your presentation. Quick comment and then a question. I would encourage you to really hammer on this beginners thing because I think so many people are intimidated about going to a yoga class, or they think they have to have the yoga pants or the perfect body or whatever the situation is. I'm curious, what's your mix between men and women, and do you think that's different from other yoga studios?
I'll definitely say that I have significantly less men in my classes. Most of my classes are about 98% women between 25 to 40 years old. Yeah, I would say that just from just going to other studios, we probably have about 5% less, but really anywhere across the city or across the nation, men aren't going to be the number one, group of people or demographics coming in.
Question in the middle.
Hi, so you're the reason I came because I really was about this vibe you had about inclusion, and then you talked a lot about accessibility in terms of it's a more financially accessible service. So like in terms of this inclusion and equity conversation, I'm just wondering if you're finding people receptive in the community and if you have any community advocates that maybe are promoting that. So on your behalf, like are there like organizations that are saying like, oh, like this is really great, or like even if it's not just like formal like inclusion initiatives, but like maybe social justice communities or things like that that are sort of bringing people your way?
I'll say that not necessarily. Most of my community advocates would be other small business owners along Troost or in the area that see that we're kind of all trying to do the same thing in regards to having this space of inclusion that allows people to feel welcome. I do work with several other nonprofits that help to drive Nella Yoga and the vision that we have, but from like a larger scale, currently right now, no.
Question.
So once again, great presentation. So a couple of things. That area of 55th and Troost, whoever told you no, sorry for them. I'm really fond of that area. I went to University Academy in 1999 when it was right there on 55th and Troost. So everything that they're doing to kind of bring that area to life, that's a great thing. So piggybacking on his point back there, I dabbled in yoga kind of in my own time because I was too insecure to go out and a group of people and do it. How comfortable, how inviting would it be for a young man to come in there and who thinks they know everything but doesn't know anything?
I'm really glad you say that because males are like the hardest students. They're like, no, I know what I'm doing. No, you don't. Like, stop that. But you're definitely welcome. All males are welcome. And we treat you like we would everyone else. And the good thing is about Nella Yoga is most of the time when you come in, there's going to be at least one other student that's never practiced yoga before. And when I say never practiced yoga, I mean they don't know where to sit on the mat. So it's kind of fun because then people feel like, okay, it's not just me that don't know what I'm doing. Now, of course, I have been there 2 years, so a lot of my beginners are now really good, so that's awesome. But still, like I said, there's so many more people out there to gain and to know about Nella Yoga to come.
Question over on your right.
Thank you so much for your presentation. Love your spirit. It seems like you're in a really awesome spot with your business and you have a great lifestyle business. I'm curious if there's some piece of this, and you've kind of touched upon this, that you really want to scale, that you really want to see go big, and what would that mean for you?
I think what we would love to see are more partnerships and organizations that want what we have to offer, diversity within our teachers, diversity within our studio, and being able to share that with schools, with businesses. There's, of course, tons of articles that have been recently written that, people learn from people that look like them. And if you only have one set of people at your studio, then how can you imagine the group of persons coming in to learn? So that's probably the biggest thing that we're looking for.
So which revenue stream is that attached to? Is that corporate events or is that facilitation?
That would be corporate yoga and private groups, things like that.
Okay, so our last question is, what can we as a community do to help you?
Spread the word, come to the studio, and then connect us with people that can help us to expand our vision. As mentioned, getting into corporations, organizations that are looking for diversity within their organization with yoga, meditation, and plant-based nutrition.
Well, thank you so much. Let's give a round of applause. I think I'm with Stephanie. I need to be best friends with you. All right, can I have our caffeinators stand up? Where are you, caffeinators? Okay, so these people standing up, they know a lot of things about 1 Million Cups, and they want to talk to you about it. So if you have any questions, any concerns, anything that you have an idea for 1 Million Cups, you can come to our caffeinators, and they'll help you out. So next week, we have Box Truck Barber and Third Space. So same time, 9 o'clock. See you next week. Thank you.